I am a 20-year-old male working night shifts as a mobile security guard in Northern Europe. My job entails patrolling predetermined locations and responding to alarm activations from various customers, including private residences, cottages, and company buildings. One night, around 1 a.m., I received an alarm from a neighboring city located approximately 25 kilometers away. This particular alarm was from a house situated in the middle of a forest. Upon arrival, I noticed that there were no lights around, forcing me to rely on my nearly depleted company flashlight. Although dim, it was my only source of illumination. As I stepped out of the car, I cautiously inspected the perimeter of the house. It was then that I noticed an open door at the back, facing the pitch-black forest. Equipped with my pepper spray in one hand and the flashlight in the other, I entered the house to investigate a potential break-in. Having checked the basement connected to the door, I found nothing suspicious. However, I received a call from the company that forwarded the alarm to me. They inquired if I had opened another door because an active alarm had been triggered after my arrival. I denied having opened any additional doors, assuring them that I couldn't have triggered the alarm. They instructed me to thoroughly search the entire premises, including all the doors. Although apprehensive, I agreed and ended the call. This incident unsettled me since I knew I hadn't opened any doors. The fact that an alarm went off after I had entered meant that someone else had opened a door within the house. I meticulously inspected every room, finding nothing out of the ordinary. No other doors were open. Returning to the entry door, I noticed footprints on the floor. I knew they weren't mine because my shoe size was larger. This discovery heightened my anxiety as I considered the possibility of someone hiding within the house. Once more, I combed through the property but found no signs of intrusion. I secured the alarms, locked up, armed the system, and returned to my car. To ensure everything was under control, I contacted the company. They reassured me that everything was fine and that no further alarms had been triggered. I reported the incident to the search and rescue team, then departed. Perhaps this account may not sound frightening to you. However, in that moment, being alone in complete darkness, deep in the woods, armed with a barely functional flashlight, and investigating an open door alarm, while another door inexplicably opened and closed within my presence, along with the appearance of unfamiliar footprints, I was genuinely spooked. Despite my experience in this line of work, where most alarms are false alarms caused by backyard animals triggering motion sensors, this night's events felt different. I had a strong sense that it wasn't a false alarm. If I were to speculate, I would guess that the back door was left unlocked, allowing someone to enter. Whether their intentions were malicious or not, I cannot say. It's possible they hid in a closet or elsewhere and exited through the basement door when I moved upstairs. This would explain the appearance of footprints after I had already searched the premises. Regardless of the circumstances, I am grateful that nothing harmful occurred that night, even if there was no malicious intent. While I have encountered similar situations before, none involved doors triggering alarms that I hadn't set off myself. I share this story as a cautionary tale, urging you to remain vigilant if you pursue a career in this field, especially when working alone. Hi, I'm Trevor, a 23-year-old first responder. I've been working as a firefighter and medic for the past 5 years, witnessing a wide range of incidents. Additionally, I have a side job with a private ambulance company. For those unfamiliar, this company transports patients from hospitals to other medical facilities or their homes. One night during a shift, we received a call to transport a discharged patient from a hospital. This particular patient, a 70-year-old woman with a history of psychiatric issues, had been admitted due to strange behavior. The nurses reported that she had been calm and cooperative throughout her stay. Upon introducing ourselves, the patient greeted us with a smile and introduced herself in return. Initially, she appeared normal and friendly, albeit tired. There was a peculiar odor, but apart from that, nothing seemed amiss. Since it was a short 10-minute transport, after completing the necessary paperwork, We engaged in casual conversation, discussing how life was treating us. We safely delivered her to her group home and accompanied her inside. While providing the caregivers with a detailed report, I noticed the woman staring intensely at me from the corner of my eye. At first, I didn't think much of it. However, as time passed, she began pacing back and forth, maintaining unwavering eye contact. Despite her age, she moved swiftly, and this behavior unnerved me. Occasionally, I glanced at her to see if she was still fixated on me. Meanwhile, my partner was engrossed in conversation with the caregiver due to her youth and attractiveness. While my partner was distracted, I grew increasingly anxious about the old lady's peculiar actions. Eventually, the woman caught me observing her and abruptly stopped moving. Strangely, despite the scorching heat outside and the absence of air conditioning, I suddenly felt a chill run down my spine. For what seemed like an eternity, she maintained her gaze until she sprinted into her room. Witnessing this, my partner urged me to check on her well-being. Reluctantly, I accompanied my partner, entering a dark room with only faint hallway light illuminating it. As we entered, we found the woman seated cross-legged in the center of her room, her back turned towards us. We called out to her, using her name, and what happened next left an indelible mark on my memory. Slowly, she rotated her head all the way around, fixing us with the same intense stare. Her eyes were completely black, her skin even paler than before, and her mouth wide open. Suddenly, she emitted a piercing, demented scream that reverberated through the room. Overwhelmed with fear, we fled to the living room, seeking answers from the caregiver. Strangely, she remained motionless and appeared unfazed. When we inquired about the incident, all she said was, "Oh, she does that a lot. Can you please take her back to the hospital?" Initially, we adamantly refused, but the woman then emerged from her room, complaining about neck pain, and according to our protocols, we couldn't deny her treatment. Reluctantly, we prepared to transport her back, all the while aware of her unsettling gaze fixed upon me. I fought back tears and avoided making eye contact, but unfortunately, I glanced up and found her smiling directly at me. Chillingly, she uttered, "I really hate that place," before turning away without saying another word. We escorted her to her room, provided a report to the nurse, and as we were leaving, she walked out the door, whispering, "See you in your nightmares," and cackling while maintaining unwavering eye contact. She wasn't wrong. Since then, I've been plagued by multiple nightmares featuring her. I genuinely hope she receives the help she desperately needs, but at the same time, I pray I never cross paths with her again. I am employed in the hospitality industry, working for a well-known chain in the UK. While I won't mention the name, I can honestly say that this is the best job I've ever had. Initially, I didn't expect to enjoy it as much, especially considering the night shifts. During the interview, everything sounded amazing, until they mentioned that I would be working alone. It made me apprehensive, and I almost declined the job. However, accepting the position turned out to be the best decision I've made. I have been working there for nearly 2 years, and I still can't believe how fortunate I am. The staff is exceptional, the guests are generally pleasant, and overall, I'm very happy. Of course, like any job, there are both positive and negative aspects. I have dealt with difficult guests, individuals returning drunk after a night out, and even had to remove a few guests due to disruptive behavior that disturbed others who were trying to sleep. So it's not always perfect, but it doesn't deter me from enjoying my work. However, one night made me question everything. This incident occurred a few weeks ago. I arrived at my usual time to take over from the evening staff. The duty manager pulled me aside and briefed me on what had happened during dinner service. According to her, there were 2 guests, a man and a woman sharing a room, who displayed very odd behavior. Apparently, they stepped outside for a cigarette, but the man started disturbing the guests dining by forcefully slamming himself against the windows and shouting profanities while making rude gestures. He then disappeared for a few minutes and returned with a fire extinguisher he found in the bin shed. The duty manager intervened, issuing a warning and making it clear that any further disturbances or property damage would result in eviction. The man responded with empty threats and retreated to his room with his companion. The duty manager assured me that it was highly unlikely they would leave their room again that night and everything should be fine. However, her assumption couldn't have been more wrong. After the duty manager and front of house staff left around 11:15 p.m., I secured the doors and grabbed my panic button, a precaution our manager insisted we wear. Although I had never needed to use it before, I was grateful I had it that night. I focused on my tasks: cleaning up, setting up the continental breakfast, emptying trash bags, counting the till, restocking juices, and preparing pancakes, crumpets, and muffins. These were routine but necessary duties. Around 1:30 a.m., just as I finished mopping and was about to take a short break, enjoying some snacks while scrolling through my phone in the restaurant area, I heard the hotel door open. It was the couple from room 1, stepping outside for another cigarette. Knowing the man's previous behavior, I didn't feel safe being alone in the open area. I quickly gathered my belongings and headed to the office, where I could lock myself in and monitor their movements through the CCTV. Some time passed, and the woman returned to the room, visibly unwell. She walked slowly, as if in pain, swaying and stopping intermittently. She managed to make it back to her room, as I observed through the monitors. However, the man seemed in no hurry to join her. Instead, he decided to explore the restaurant area. Initially, I thought he might be looking for me, and I almost opened the door to let him know I was there. But as I glanced at the monitor, I noticed something peculiar. He stood on a table and began dancing. It may not sound threatening, but the behavior was undeniably strange. So rather than opening the door, I chose to continue observing him. Over the next hour or so, his behavior escalated from strange to downright disturbing. He progressed from dancing on the table to wandering around the restaurant area. Eventually, he reached the lobby, where he stood perfectly still, resembling a statue. After a few seconds, he changed positions, only to freeze again. Initially, I found it odd, even giggling at his bizarre actions. However, the worst was yet to come. Around 2:45 a.m., the man continued his erratic behavior. He kept going in and out of the hotel, dancing and jumping around. Then, he decided it would be a good idea to take the condiment tray, sit on the chair behind the desk, and start drinking ketchup and brown sauce. Now, his actions had shifted from strange to concerning. I didn't dare open the office door to confront him and tell him to stop. As a lone female worker, I wasn't willing to put myself in any danger. I continued watching him. As time went on, his behavior became increasingly repulsive. At approximately 3:25 a.m., after finishing the condiments, he removed his shirt and wiped away the sauce around his mouth. He carelessly threw his shirt on the desk chair, then walked around aimlessly until he suddenly halted and turned his gaze towards the office door. At that moment, fear consumed me. He slowly approached the door, maintaining direct eye contact with the camera, as if he knew I was watching. He pressed his body against the office door, kissed it provocatively, while still looking at the camera, and then proceeded to engage in explicit behavior. Witnessing this made me feel sick. My body froze in shock, but I knew I had to take action quickly. I pressed my panic button and called the police, ensuring the guy couldn't hear me as he stood outside the door. While on the phone with the police dispatcher, I described the situation in a hushed voice. I urgently requested their intervention, as breakfast service would soon begin, and I didn't want other guests to be in danger. As I provided the necessary details, the man remained in the lobby, still on his knees, shouting, "Not me, not me." Feeling safer now that help was on the way, I left the office and informed one of the officers about everything I had shared with the dispatcher. However, there was a language barrier, possibly because the man was Polish, and he kept repeating, "Not me." The officers requested access to his room to check on the woman's welfare. Upon opening the door, an overwhelming stench of urine and feces hit us. Beer bottles were strewn about, and hard drugs were scattered on the bedroom desk. The woman lay naked on the bed, soaked in urine and alcohol. I had never seen anything like it. After much commotion and additional police officers arriving in a riot van, the man was arrested and taken away. A relative arrived around 6:15 a.m. to collect the woman. They were extremely apologetic and explained that both individuals suffered from mental health issues and had been missing for days. I tried to be understanding, but given what I had witnessed, I simply wanted them gone. By 6:45 a.m., the police had left, taking the couple with them. The day manager arrived, and I recounted the entire incident, showing them the CCTV footage. They embraced me and commended me for how I handled the situation. All I wanted was to go home, take a long shower, and go to bed. I was utterly exhausted. It has been a few weeks since the incident, and I learned that the man was charged with indecent exposure. The woman is staying with a relative, and I genuinely hope they both receive the help they desperately need. As for me, I continue to work at the same place. I refuse to let one major incident overshadow my love for this job. However, it taught me an important lesson. Always trust your instincts. If I hadn't retreated to the office when I did, who knows what might have happened to me.